everybody. Welcome to the Deep Life podcast. And we're really excited for our guest today. Priscilla, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
We are really excited to dive deep in all things holistic health and wellness, intentions, mindset. I mean, we've been following you I think we've been following each other on Instagram for at least a year, if not longer. And you stood out to Dan and I so much because you really tap into your truest potential, and then you coach others on how to do that. And that's really something that stands out in the fitness industry. So we admire what you do. We can't wait to have this conversation. But before we get into it, can you give our listeners a little background on who Priscilla is, the successful entrepreneur you've become? You're a mom, you wear so many hats, you're a coach. I mean, you have your own gym, you're an owner. I mean, tell us how this all began.
Yeah, thank you. And you guys are fantastic as well. So I appreciate this space that you're allowing me to share with you right now. So I am a mother. I am a mother of two teenagers. I should say that they're young adults now. My daughter Sade is 19 and my son Vegas is 18. And they keep me busy alone in terms of with their athletics. They're in competitive sports. My daughter is in Taekwondo and she's an instructor, and my son is in very high level competitive basketball too.
So sports and fitness and health run in the family, you're saying?
Yeah, everything kind of tied in very nicely for me and my space now, but it wasn't always like that. So maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. But you know, in terms of what I do right now, I still work in the corporate space. I'm a sales executive. So I do also have a, quote unquote 9 to 5 that I work on. But my passion really lies in the health and wellness and being an advocate and an example for my peers in my community, because, I think that I came into this space non-active, not focusing on my own nutrition, and then my eyes lit up and the doors kind of opened when I was able to kind of tap into this other side of me, or this, better self of my own. And I was thinking, if I can do this, honest, anyone can do it. You just gotta have the right mindset. And as I kind of dug into it, did more studying and, a little bit more research, got my certifications, I started, kind of sharing my passion of fitness and, holistic nutrition to all of my clients. And we've been seeing some really great results there too. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It resonates with me so much because I had a 9 to 5 for over 5 years. And then I was in corporate sales as well for a hotel industry. So I totally get it. And then I stopped that and I was in real estate for almost 6 years. And not that I didn't love those jobs. I loved the people. I really enjoyed talking to everybody. But just as you're saying, once I opened those doors to the health and wellness, the fitness space, once I began eating properly, moving my body, it was like, this is what I want to do. I can talk about this all day, every day. And I love to talk to other people too, because everyone's perspective is different on it. So let's dive into your practices.
Yeah, actually, I really want to get into sort of what you do from a day to day, but I think before we start that, I'd like to back up a little bit and get into sort of how your journey did start, and into sort of like your wellness and holistic journey, like what brought that about, share some details.
Yeah, for sure.
Go deep.
Yes.
Go deep. Everything kind of highlighted itself to me when I had my babies, like even before that, I was a busy mom, and throughout, their adolescence, that's all I was. I felt like I was a caregiver. I made sure, I wanted to be the perfect mom, the perfect wife, have the perfect job, be the perfect daughter. And there were so many other hats that I was wearing where I never put myself first.
Wow.
And right. So it was as if I was moving through my day, my weeks, my month on autopilot, just kind of doing and not tapping into anything creative. Yes, I was moving my body because, I'm doing laundry, I'm doing, there's so many other things that I'm doing during my day, but there wasn't anything that was connecting my movement to my spirit or my mind. the kids started getting a little bit older, we had always said, my partner and I had always said, we're going to make sure that we start them off on the right path. And, physical activity, movement is one of those things that we wanted to instill as, one of our family's non-negotiables, so that we could, really tap into that. It would be, I grew up very, very still. I grew up with, no sports. I was, very studious, that type of thing. There wasn't much activity in my world, and I didn't want that for my kids. So we kind of started doing that, and they got to an age where I couldn't keep up with them. Honestly, I was like, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. I wanted to make sure that I was one of the mentors or people that my children would look up to say, you know what, mom's doing this, she's still staying active, she's eating healthier, and just really instill that into their design. So that's kind of when I started my journey, and, going to the gym maybe 3-4 times a week on those little cardio machines. I think it was a great start, right? Because everyone has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I started strength training and actually lifting weights that I fell in love with the transformation. I just got really hooked on the fact that, I could see my body physically changing. I felt better, I felt stronger, and it was as if each week or each progression that went along, I was hooked. I just kept wanting to get better. I kept wanting to lift heavier. And I have to admit, I was one of those people who thought, I don't want to get too big, and I don't want, such like, things that we're fed, what I mean? Right? Things that we're fed, and I had to start to unlearn a lot, right? So that's kind of where everything started for me.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack in just that. I love everything. I was getting chills. And I think that listeners are really going to resonate with your honesty. So thank you for being vulnerable with what you shared about being a mom and wearing so many hats. Because first off, when you told me this months ago when we were coordinating this, and that you had an 18 and 19-year-old, I almost fell on the floor. You look freaking amazing. Amazing. And it goes to show what a healthy lifestyle can do to your body, right? Your body responds to the things that you do, putting in it and movement.
Yeah.
And so hands down, you look incredible. But I love that you kind of came to the realization that even though you're wearing all these hats as a mother, if you're not showing up as the best version of yourself, it's going to be harmful for your children. And I'm so glad that you said that, because I think a lot of women probably feel that way and don't express that because they're trying to be super moms and have the CEO careers and like make the lunches and the dinners and be home and have a social life, but also do all these things. And it's when you burn yourself out, you're not going to have the opportunity to be the best version of yourself for your children. So I love that you were able to kind of tap into that and incorporate the healthy lifestyle with them, and that they're just on board with it as well. I think that's really amazing. Yeah, it
really is.
Not that it was easier, because sometimes that, holistic lifestyle that, being able to provide them, a very high nutrition dense meals is not always convenient, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And it's kind of one of those things that where I felt that it was worth investing not only the time, but also the extra additional costs of, going organic, and because what we eat really, equals the outcome and quality of our lives. That's kind of what I really, one of my mantras right now. But, in terms of that balance, it was hard finding that balance until I actually, started instilling some of my day-to-days, meditation in the morning, getting a handle on some of the things that I was feeling, and letting myself feel some of the, anxiety, the pressure, and being okay in that space to be able to kind of show up on my day-to-day, whether it be for my kids, for my corporate, for myself. You had mentioned, I'm a gym owner, and through these last 2 years of this special time that we've had, hasn't been the easiest.
Sure.
And I think that was also kind of took my journey into the next level as well, because, faced with all those challenges as an entrepreneur, as a gym owner, especially in our fitness space, because I'm in Canada, I'm in Toronto, Canada, and we had some of the hardest restrictions. Did they make sense to myself and some of my peers? Absolutely not. But it's kind of what we had to deal with. But it really made me question, one, my own abilities, my own passions of where I was putting my energy, and opened another set of doors where here we are, sharing space online, training people online, which I didn't even have in my, in any of my radars. I always loved in-person training with my clients. That energy between live training really, really ignites me. But, we had to kind of pivot and find a different modality to kind of bring our training to everybody with.
Tell me about it. We hear you for sure. Same thing with, Dan obviously is the personal trainer between the two of us with the nutrition coaching. I did most online, but we hear you, you're throwing these things, and yeah, you unfortunately can't control it. And that's where you have to surrender to the universe and know that they're the universe and source, God, whatever you spiritually or religiously want to call it, is just guiding you to prepare you for more lessons to get you to that next level of understanding. Because we're the light workers, right? We've got to shine, we bring our torch with us so that people can, come behind us. But you had mentioned kind of having movement as a non-negotiable that you do with your family. Are there any other kind of either day-to-day non-negotiables or weekly non-negotiables that you do yourself for personal wellness?
That's a great question. So another non-negotiable that we have is organic superfoods. We make sure that our nutrition is, as best as we can have it. Of course, we're going to have those days where, it's life, it happens, right?
Yeah, of course. You're going to enjoy a piece of pizza and ice cream every once in a while. We get it.
But I mean, we take that with some grace as well. And we understand that, it's life. And, I think that even when I speak to my clients regarding that piece of it, as long as we understand, nutrition in general, our gut health, and we keep it as clean as we can, right? We can kind of manage those meals or manage those days, and then not feel bad about it. Because I think a lot of the time too, people, some of my clients would come to me and be like, "Oh, Coach P, I went to a barbecue, and then it throws off their entire week." And I'm like, "Okay, the barbecue lasted for 3 hours. Let's get back to it. Have some more water, let's get back on track." So that is definitely, we try to instill a lot of nutrition as our non-negotiable too. I don't think we talk enough about this, and I'm hearing a lot right now is, one of the things that is non-negotiable for me as well is sleep and rest. And that's really important. As my kids were growing up, I always told them, sleep time is grow time. That's when your body, your body is there re-energizing itself. And, with little ones, that's when they're really growing. And I can tell you that I've literally, honestly seen changes in a matter of 8 to 10 hours in my children, from the time I put them to bed to the time that they wake up. I'm like, wow, did you just grow a couple of centimeters, or looks different? Sleep is incredibly important, and deep rest is important as well. Yes. Being able, right? I mean, I'm that type of person who, I have a busy schedule, I have lots of going on, but if I am doing stuff that is aligned and brings me joy, I can go on for hours.
For sure.
And then when it comes time to sleep, I'm out like a light.
Exactly, right? It's all about that balance.
Yes, yeah. So it's important. Sleep is rest time is that important time too for us, for sure. Yeah.
It's interesting because I feel like, as you were describing earlier, as when you're a younger mother and you're very go, but it seems like now, as you've prioritized rest and taking care of yourself, you're not doing any less. I can't imagine that you were doing more back then. So I find it so interesting that actually taking the time to rest and recover and invest in yourself actually allows you to probably do more
Yeah.
And be more of yourself. And I think that's such an important lesson for people to take away, that like, it's not selfish to stop and take some time for yourself. In fact, you're able to give more. You're probably able to give more to your children and, you know, your community, and just do more in general. So
I remember, you know, when they were younger, I would have a lot of, you know, you tend to get a lot of when you're a new mom, you tend to get a lot of non-solicited, like, feedback.
Oh, advice?
Yeah, advice.
Oh, I can imagine.
I remember very distinctly, you know, one of the ones I got on a common theme was, oh, when the baby's sleeping, make sure you sleep. And it's easier said than done, because in my mind, I'm like, well, I still have so many things. You have to make dinner, I have to laundry, like the house is a mess, the living room, the toys are everywhere, but it's not always that simple to get that rest. But, you know, Dan, you put it very nicely. Like, I honestly, I feel like I can do more. And the more that I'm doing is so much more valuable. It's so much more authentic to my alignment and what I want to bring, and it serves my purpose. And that's me now, right? Like like as a younger, you know, newer mom, may not have been that right space and time for it. But I think as we all, it doesn't matter whether or not you have kids or not, you're always going to be going through evolution. You're going to always be expanding. And sometimes when you get to that level of expansion, it's almost like right when you're about to hit another level, it's very hard. It feels like you're lost again. And it was like, oh man, you know, I've been working towards these set of goals, or I've been working towards these self-improvement things, and it's been good. You know, I'm getting some results, and then all of a sudden, like, I feel lost again. But that's kind of like our cues to understand, like,
to level up.
Yeah.
To level up. Yeah, it's coming. Something else is coming, right? So.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that what you were doing up to then was wrong. That was just, that was exactly what you needed to get to the point to take that next step.
Exactly.
Yes, I love it. And I love that you use expansion. Like, this is totally in our wheelhouse. I'm so excited to dive into that, because it's all energy. That expansion that you're talking about is energy. We're energetic beings, and that's what we're putting out into the world. And I love that you said that that's kind of like you're putting an energy into the things that you love, the health and the wellness space, which is allowing you to show up in a much more expansive state, as if you were doing something that was out of alignment with kind of your soul's purpose. That's where the anxiety and the friction and the depression comes in. That's that's at least what we tell our clients. Like, if this doesn't bring you joy, and you have Sunday scaries every single day of the week leading up to like what your work or job, quote unquote, is, not that we advise people to quit their jobs, but it's really like, think about what makes you happy or what you want to do, and follow that path, because then the doors are going to open for the expansion that's going to come next. And I love it too. It's, you hit that like rock bottom of like the dark night of the soul, and you're like, oh yeah, Dan's come home, and I like literally will be on the floor in tears with my head like, who am I? What's going on? And he's like, do you need a minute? It's like, I need that release. I need the energy to leave my body, because it's like the universe preparing me for what's coming next. So I love that. Let's kind of get into mindset and setting intentions and visualization. This is a huge thing. You must be into that, because we teach, and Dan especially, with like personal training, and I'm assuming you do the same. I shouldn't make assumptions, but just knowing you, he's always telling clients, you know, visualize what it is that you want to accomplish, whether that be lose 20 pounds or gain 20 pounds in muscle. And people don't even realize that that's half the battle, is realizing and tapping into that potential. Do you kind of do the same with your clients? Okay.
Yeah. Visualization. I love it. And visualization has been a huge tool. And I tell my clients the same thing too. And to add on that as well, I'd like to tie in emotion to that.
It's all, you have to feel it.
You have to feel it. Feel what it feels like. Like, you know, you want to lose the 20 pounds, you want to gain 20 pounds. Feel what it's going to feel like. Be in that position already, and then tap into that. Like, you're going to be great. You're going to feel great in your clothes. You're going to be able to do that marathon. How is it going to feel when you finish that marathon? Like that sense of accomplishment, right? And then build off that, because sometimes I just need them to show up to this training session and just be present and be like, okay, we got an hour, let's just bang this out, right? But and on the other days, that might not be enough. So they've got to really dig deep and kind of feel what that goal or what they want to feel is. And I think that helps a lot.
I agree. And I think that that's why a lot of people hit a plateau.
Yeah, for sure.
Because and I know that this happened with me when I first began, working out. Very similar. Like I was really afraid to lift weights. I would tell Dan, I don't want to get bulky. And he was like, trust me, like we're doing this. And then I got to the point where I was muscular, but I still couldn't visualize myself losing the weight because I had transformed my body to an extent and I didn't realize it could get even better. And I think that happens a lot. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I think a common mistake people make is letting the material world kind of influence their mind. The things that you see, like we think we get it backwards. Whereas actually things have to be mental first. Everything has to be a thought before it can actually happen, no matter what it is. The most technological advances, airplanes and trains and boats and
an idea,
all the amazing things, computers. Like first it's an idea, then you can make it happen. And it's the exact same with your body and with your health. You have to believe it. You have to have this image and emotionally be attached to it and excited about it and put consciousness and life into it.
Yeah.
But if we look at ourselves in the mirror and then feel emotional about what that is, then we're not going to be able to make that next step in the transformation because we don't believe it's possible.
Yeah, if you're looking in the mirror, oh my gosh, I need to lose weight. Look at my flabby arms. Like you're sending yourself back. It's almost like you really, exactly like you said before, you have to unlearn everything that the fitness industry taught you because, we're in the fitness space. I'm not trying to, demonize that by any means, but they do beat people down, unfortunately, with the marketing and making people feel. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, that's really important too, right? Because I feel that, in that space, and it might be a whole different topic of discussion, is those influences that we're always receiving. How are we internalizing that self-talk as well? Because, as you had mentioned, Elise, our bodies are energetic. And if we're negatively talking or thinking those thoughts, the only one who's listening is ourselves, really, right? So that voice that we have we need to be our biggest cheerleader. And sometimes, as a coach, I'm really trying to get through some of those negative thoughts and conversations to be like, when you're thinking this way, when you're looking at a mirror, I want you to hear my voice telling you, and giving you support, but I want it to be your voice. Yes. Because as soon as it's their voice or our own voice, that's so much more powerful.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think, that's really, it's the way we coach too. And we found that not out the hard way, but when we began coaching people together like 3 years ago, we didn't realize how powerful the mind was and how many people talk poorly about themselves. Yeah. And that's why we developed what we call the momentum mindset, building the mindset of internal strength. Yeah. So our momentum strength wellness, it's of course muscle strength, but it's also mind strength. Yeah. Because the ego and the false limited self is an MFer. Yes. And it really wants to keep us safe. So it's going to reiterate those untrue, horrible narratives that we've told ourselves and beaten ourselves up about. And especially within the fitness industry, that they're just do 100 more crunches, spend an hour on the treadmill and you'll get there. Yeah. And it's but if you're not changing the perception that you have internally in your mind, in yourself,
you can do as many as you want.
You can't receive that outside validation, right? Yeah. It has to come within.
Totally. Yeah, I agree at that. And this is why I resonate with you guys so much, is because it's such a mindful workout along with your physical self. And then, we go into the nutrition side and, it's all about, gut heart and mind space and be able to connecting that line. And, you know, if our nutrition is not there, if our gut is all twisted and all out of whack and not able to absorb the nutrients of the foods that we're eating, it doesn't matter how organic, it doesn't matter what we're taking, it doesn't matter the supplements that we're taking, you know, and if your gut is all, you know, like twisted and all mixed up, then everything else kind of gets mixed up and out of alignment too. So, you know, in the past, I would say in 2-3 years, that has surfaced for me too, in the way that I approach training and the way that I coach as well. Because, you know, if one thing that this pandemic has taught me is people are very resilient, right? But that mind is such, as much as it's a beautiful thing, it sabotages our goals so fast. And it's so hard to overcome fear. And it's so hard to overcome, you know, limiting beliefs, that we really need, you know, a team around us, coaches around us. And it's not something, and I love all the coaches online, and, you know, sharing content is amazing on, you know, on Instagram or YouTube, but there's nothing that's going to replace having a coach that understands your journey and what you're going through. Because if I go back to, you know, that expansion and feeling of loss, you're going to have those steps, and you need someone to help you along the way. Because, you know, you could get to your goal, lose the 20 pounds, and then come up to plateau. And then what happens? You're just going to revert into old habits, and you're going to come back going, oh, the program didn't work. I gained back 30 pounds. But, you know, how have you been like maintaining that? Like, what have you been doing? So fascinating.
It really is. Yeah. But that's exact the like that yo-yo dieting idea is like exactly what I was trying to get at before, where it's like even if you do lose the weight, but then you're still allowing everything around you to convince you that nothing changed, it's going to come right back. Having that mindset is so important, and but maybe even more important than you know, the diet and the workouts. I was about definitely more important than anything.
I like to sit down with my clients, you know, friends, family, whoever wants to hear me talk. But I like to sit down and really understand. I feel that, you know, the why behind the goal is important, right? Like really understanding that why. Like, you want to lose 20 pounds? Fantastic. Why? Like,
we literally say the exact same thing.
Why?
And that's what makes you and us stand out, because a lot of fitness trainers do not do that. They're just like, okay, you want to lose 20 pounds, no problem. But why? Yes. Why? What is the deeper meaning? Like, are you looking for external validation, or do you have a heart condition, or do you want to play with your kids? I mean, everybody's unique in that aspect, but I love that. Is that usually like an initial consultation that you do?
For sure. Yeah. Like, I need to understand the why. I need to understand, you know, I think it's important for, you know, coaches out there to really build that rapport with your client, so that it's more of a partnership rather than more of, you know, a coach and a trainee, or, you know, customer, client, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, we're a big part of their journey. And if we can't show up for ourselves and show up in that space, you know, taking care of our own self, how are we going to expect, you know, our clients to feel that energy? But the why is huge. Understanding that, then you can kind of look at that and break it down and almost say, okay, well, this is why. Like, let's say I want to drop 20 pounds. I want to feel better for myself. That's great as an overall, you know, what you want to feel. But how are we going to get there? Is it, you know, walking for 30 minutes outside a good level step? Like, let's start building baby goals, or not baby goals, but little goals to kind of get to the bigger goals, so that there's always progression. That's always
the building momentum.
Yeah, that's the, you know, there's success and everything. I know you guys know.
But I love it, because you also, what you do too is you take it in a much, like you're saying, baby steps, but it's to sustain the longevity of it. Because that's also something, like, we love coaching people, but I also don't want to coach people for the rest of their lives, right? And it's like passing the torch, like letting the children go out into their own. It's like we're setting you up for success. You know, we've been doing it. This is, you know, what we implemented in our lives and how we did it. And some things are going to work for some people and not others, but it's all about the longevity, right? It's how many people go from, losing 20 pounds to gaining 30 and then back. And it's the cyclical. That's unfortunately how the fitness industry makes money too, which is again, another conversation, but we're all about keeping that health and well-being for life.
Along that line is, as coaches, if we can, come from a place that serves versus a place that, I understand, it's my business too, and we need to be sustainable about it. But if we come from a true place that serves and want to see our clients, get to their goals and that's such a magical place. Like, and it feels sometimes that, some of our, feelings towards finances and it takes a toll on you as a business owner in the fitness. It's expensive running a gym, right? So you got to keep on building that, but at the same time, that's again, you build the systems in, you have the team around you so that you can focus on what your true passion is and how that aligns to you. And that, I think, took me some time to understand too, because not only did I have a lot of hats to wear in my home and, in my family, but I felt like I was taking everything on as a business owner and I had to do everything myself, So it was, one of the things that I've been working on. Yeah,
I love that. It's almost like receiving.
Yes.
Right? Because it's like you're giving and you give so much to your family. I think, and Dan and I, we just had this conversation a little while ago. Dan's not the best at receiving either, because it's like he's the man and he wants to do everything. And it's like, we're a partnership. We're in this together. Like, what can I do to help you? So I kind of love that you said that. It's just, again, you're leveling up. You're learning to receive what you need to further on the business.
Yeah. And I think from like a training standpoint, like as a young trainer, I definitely came at it with sort of like the scarcity mindset of like client retention is so important. Like I have these clients, I don't want to let them go. And I wasn't doing them a disservice necessarily, but I wasn't trying to like empower them and send them out into the world, like Elise mentioned before, until more recently, where I had sort of the realization, like, I'm better off, completely changing this person's life, sending them off, and then they'll send back 10 referrals. Because when their friends and family see how much their life has changed, everybody starts calling me. So it's like, okay, this is completely, like, you don't need to hold on to a thing. You just, give it some life and let it go. And it makes such a positive impact. I think it really
and I love that because too, like, I feel that in our industry, in the fitness industry, there's been a lot of stigma around, competition and, this trainer and that trainer. And I almost feel like if we just took a step back from that and collectively came together, like this, I love, right? Like we're chatting, we just started something, myself and a friend of mine in the fitness industry as well. We just started, chatting about challenges in the fitness industry so that we could build that community where we drop that competitiveness and really work towards leveling up our business so that we can, again, serve our community so much better. Times are changing. And to be quite honest, when I'm looking at where fitness was when I first started, or where fitness was, like 2 years ago, and compared to where it is now and where it's going, it looks different. It feels different. And I feel that, as coaches, if we don't change or continue to, look at, what it is our clients are looking for, our understanding on a deeper level of really how to make those changes and transformations happening, we're going to miss something, or we're just going to be left behind.
She said it's all about like building communities that empower each other and help each other.
You say that, he says this all the time. We all get better when we all get better.
Exactly.
And it's also, you're totally right about the scarcity and the competition, but there's only so many hours in a day. But I mean, we're all busy. But then tapping into these communities and these resources. I mean, we've learned so much just interviewing other fitness professionals and taking away things. And it's like, it's almost, we're gaining information, but reworking it in the way that we can utilize it. And it's different and the message is getting across. And I think that I think the veil is lifting, unfortunately, on everything in the world right now, not just fitness, but I think people are really waking up to the fact that you can't beat yourself up and punish yourself into looking better and receiving that validation that eventually goes nowhere unless you truly like are comfortable in your own skin and can say that you love yourself, which again is much easier said than done, but that's our job to, you know, assist our clients and the customers, and whether that be friends or family or clients, in achieving their truest potential. Because we also say this, and I don't know if you feel the same, people don't realize how badly they feel until they start feeling better. Right?
Yeah. Or they don't know exactly what they're looking for until they find it, right? Yeah.
That's the most rewarding thing, when people are like waking up and they're like, oh, this happened, or oh, I connected the dots on this. And it's like, like, I'd rather that than you get a damn six pack. I don't care. That just comes.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I will have the clients that come in be like, you know, like, I want a six pack. I want to look ripped, or, you know, I have a lot of moms coming. I got to drop the baby weight off. But at the end of the day, if they can get through my HIIT session for 20 minutes, they're like, I feel great. I'm like, that's that essence. That's what's going to drive success in our program together, because what might look different here will look different here, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Do you find that, like, when you do start asking why, and like somebody said, like, for the example you used before, like, I want to lose 20 pounds. Like, well, why do you want to lose 20 pounds? Do you find that people are kind of caught off guard by that?
Totally. They have no idea.
I think it's so funny. Like,
they don't know, and they look at you going, what do you mean? Because I want to. And I'm like, okay.
Like, why would anybody question that? It's what everybody says I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, do you want to, like, I think Elise listed off a bunch of reasons. Like, do you want external validation? Like, do you think you're just going to be more accepted at 20 pounds lighter?
Get off your medication, you know, so many different things. It's like, really, what is it? Like, it's, I find that it opens up another set of, another conversation. And that's where the stickiness happens. And when I say stickiness, I mean, that's where you start building that rapport and that you know, that trainee partnership. And to our point is, after I finish training, or after I get my client to reach their goals and have the amazing transformations, I want them to go out there and live their lives. And I tell them this all the time, like, I can teach you how to do a push-up. I can teach you how to use the machines. And this is, you know, like, that's great on what we want to do, because I don't want you to go into a gym without me not being able to do what you need to get done. Right. But let's kind of take a couple steps back and make sure you can get yourself to the gym without having me call you and be like, what time is it? You know, like, it's starting, and you're late, like, what, you know. So it's all about, you know, that mindset, and it's very interesting, and I love working with my clients that way.
Oh, I love it. I think that this is going to lead, like, perfectly as we kind of wrap up here, because I mean, you live this lifestyle. You are busy, but yet you maintain your health and well-being, and then you coach, and you coach coaches on how to do this too, which is so important and imperative. But, you know, do you have any advice that you kind of give your clients, or that you'd like to give our listeners on maybe where to just start, or what they can do to kind of begin this journey for?
Yeah, for sure. I think a good place to start is tapping into that mindfulness and that mind space, and actually taking some time to kind of check in with yourself and figure out what your passions are and what your why is. That is, I would say, one of my biggest drivers of anything in business, in relationships, whatever it is. You need to understand why you do the things that you do, or why you want the things that you want. And then from there, we can then kind of make little tweaks along the way. You know, it's all about, you know, trial and error, really, at the same time with yourself too, right? But there are systems that we put in place, you know, to kind of help get there. If it's, you know, well, maybe we should drink a little bit more water first, or maybe it's a little bit more movement, or adding extra greens into your diet. You know, the simple things, I think, in terms of starting from, and this is, I'm talking from a place where someone is coming from with, nothing, right? You're just showing up, with high levels of toxicity and just not feeling your best self. But understanding your why and really connecting with yourself and spending that time to listen to your body, listen to yourself, and, just feeling and understanding where you are spiritually, holistically, whatever it is for you.
I love that too, because it's also, you mentioned this at the beginning, it kind of slipped in. I meant to bring it up before, but you basically were saying when you were, a younger mom, you were doing things, you were on autopilot. And just going through the day. And I think a lot of people live that way, but don't realize it.
Yeah.
And change is very hard for anyone, but it's almost like you just have to, like you said, at least wrap your head around or have some sort of mindfulness practice that change is inevitable. And you've got to frame it positively, because change has such a negative connotation. And so if you're like, oh, I've got to change this aspect, it's not going to be sustainable, and you're almost setting yourself up for failure. But if you can shift the perspective and say, okay, this change is going to make me so much better. It's going to give back to my family, my friends, my community. That's kind of the step, or at least the little momentum forward that you need to get people to then work up to those big changes.
Yeah. And it's like a snowball effect, like a layer, like onion, right? You peel it back and there's so many different layers, and you just you add to it, you compound and add onto like the little wins, or, the little things that make you joyful. Because if you can find 3 things or 5 things that make you joyful, looking at, a tree, or, like something like getting some fresh air, but you keep on doing that every day, you're going to change your mood. You're going to change, some of that cellular connection in your body. And that's when the magic happens, because your your mind is now saying, I want more of that. I want to feel joy.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about with the energy. That's what we mean. Like, you're putting that energy out, whether you're looking at your baby or your dog or cat or a loved one.
Yeah.
The universe is going to match that frequency. Again, it's all energy. I love that. That's, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Well, I am on a freaking Coach P high right now. This is so incredible. Oh my gosh, we're definitely going to have to maybe do a part 2 in a couple months or a year from now, but it's incredible. We love watching you. We love all your insights, but where can our listeners kind of find you if you want to direct people to a website or your social media handles?
Thank you. I appreciate you guys so much. Right now, my website is coming to its evolution as well. We're kind of revamping that. So I'll share you my Instagram handle. It's iced.out.babycakes. So iced out baby cakes. And there is a story behind that one too.
Okay.
If we have just a few minutes. So when my daughter was, I would think about maybe 7 or 8, on this entrepreneurial kick that my mind works sometimes, I thought, what a great idea. My daughter loves to bake. It was just sharing time. It's something that brings us joy. So we had started an Instagram page for her, and it was for cupcakes. So we named it Iced Out Baby Cakes, because we had a little diamond on the top of the, and then it just stuck, and I never got to change it. So
hey, if it works, it works. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we'll link that in the show notes for sure. So we thank you so much for being a guest. I think that this is going to resonate with so many listeners. So again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. You guys are amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. And I'll keep watching like I usually do too on your podcast. I learned so much from you guys.
Oh my gosh.
That you have there is amazing. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.